Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Sunday. What a beautiful day to celebrate Mother's Day. Isn't it nice? Okay, so we've been talking about geopolitics, China's GDP, China's population, so on and so forth. I kind of ran out of ideas. And I saw Xi Jinping went to Xiong'an a couple of days ago, and I just suddenly realized, how about let's talk about feng shui for a change? I'm not a I'm not a feng shui expert. I'm not a fortune teller, but I thought it's quite interesting to see how feng shui is tied with CCP politics. So yeah, I think it's a perfect topic for the weekend, just to be a little, on the lighter side, right? So yes, Xi Jinping went to visit his one of his signature project, the Xiong'an, the new Chinese capital in Xiong'an, on May the 10th. And he brought three of the seven Politburo Standing Committee members with him. And what's unusual is that he brought Premier Li Qiang as well. Actually, I do have pictures. I do have pictures to share with you. Hold on, here we go. Oh, this is what happened? Oh, it's in backward. Okay, so here's him. And did you notice something odd about this picture? They're all wearing masks, right? Except the guy who's talking to him, but he stepped 6 feet away. Yeah, someone said that because they hadn't been wearing masks for a while. So someone said that it must indicate that they are concerned with the COVID, that whatever's ongoing in China right now. But anyways, so he brought Chinese Premier Li Qiang with him. And that's very unusual because Chinese premier is the head of the government and Xi Jinping is the head of the party. People in those two positions often attend meetings together, but they do not visit the same place together unless it's an extremely important event or circumstance. Like last time when we saw Hu Jintao, it was in 2008 when Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao both visited the Wenchuan earthquake site, right, during the Sichuan earthquake. So this tells us Xi's trip to Xiong'an was very special. Well, Xiong'an is a new city, 100 kilometers or 60 miles away from south of Beijing. And Xi Jinping proposed the idea in 2014 to build the city, and it was officially announced in 2017. It has been built, but not a lot of people live there. Beijing has spent, on the record, $500 billion and will spend another 200 million yuan this year. So why does Xi Jinping spend so much money to build an empty city? Well, I think it's related to feng shui or his feng shui. I think he hopes to improve the feng shui of Beijing or his regime. Basically, he wants to improve feng shui to help him stay in power, to help his regime. Now, the Chinese Communist Party claims to be atheist, right? Or atheistic. And feng shui, which is a traditional Taoist practice, is considered superstition, and officials are not allowed to practice or believe in it. But the party leaders all believe in feng shui, or are very, or were, or are very superstitious all the time. From Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin to now Xi Jinping, there's no exception. So today's talk will have three parts. First, I'll talk about the superstitions of all of Xi Jinping's predecessors. And then I'll talk about whether or not Xi Jinping believes in, whether or not he is superstitious, whether or not he believes in supernatural power. And then last but not least, we'll talk about this city that he builds and whether or not it has good feng shui. All right, so let's first talk about Mao Zedong. Oh, I need to go back. So when Mao took the that was years ago. Even this slides isn't the right timing, so let me hide it. So when Mao Zedong took the Red Army, the defeated Red Army, or the one who the army that was fleeing, was on the brink of being totally wiped out. When Mao took them on a long march and trying to find a resting place, and when they passed through the Muslim territory in northern Shanxi, Mao talked to a Muslim imam, Iman. I don't know how you pronounce that. Iman. He talked to him about whether his troops should head north or south. And the Imam told him it's better to go north because northwest is considered the place of growth, or the place where growth is the birthplace of growth. So Mao went north. Now, Mao frequently sought religious figures or spiritual cultivators, such as monks, Daoists, for advice. The most famous story is Mao's visit to a Tibetan Lama, known for his fortune-telling capability. The Lama told Mao he would rise to power, and then he wrote the number 8341. Mao asked what the number meant. The Lama didn't say. He didn't say. So Mao later named the troop protecting him, his Secret Service troop, the 8341 Corps, right? So he wrote down the number 8341, and so he named his guards the 8341 Corps. He might have realized at the end of his life what the meaning of the number, because he lived 83 years and was in power for 41 years. So that's 8341. After Mao took troop, Mao's troop, the PLA, took control of the city of Beijing in 1949 during the Civil War, Mao went to ask a Daoist the best time for him to enter the city. He was advised that he should choose the largest single-digit number, whatever that means or whatever that meant. He was also told that he was incompatible with the past emperors of China, and he could clash with the energy field in the Forbidden City, or in the Forbidden Palace, which was the royal palace for several dynasties. So Mao waited almost 6 months to enter the Beijing city. He entered Beijing on September 9, 1949. So 9/9/1949. By the way, he also died on the same day. He died on September 9th, 1976. And for the rest of his life, he never entered the Forbidden Palace. He lived in Zhongnanhai, which is right outside the Forbidden Palace, next to it, but he never went to the Forbidden Palace. When Mao founded the People's Republic of China on October 1st, 1949, 28 cannons, not the internationally accepted 21 cannons, were fired to celebrate the occasion. The world was curious. Why 28? Even President Nixon was curious and asked a question when he visited China. Now, number 28 is a very important number in Mao Zedong's life. The traditional font, I think now I have pictures. Yeah, so this is October 1st, 1949, on Tiananmen Square, the place where they announce the founding of the PRC. This was Mao's meeting with President Nixon. So number 28 is very important in his life. The traditional font of his name, Mao Zedong, had 28 strokes that we write in Chinese. And Mao, when he was in school, he was nicknamed the 28th scholar. He had 28 loyal lieutenants under him. And the word communist, 共, here I have the word, 共, has two components, 20 and 8. So President Nixon said 28 basically is Mao. That number means Mao Zedong. Okay, so now let's talk about Deng Xiaoping. Let me come back. Deng Xiaoping, after, Deng Xiaoping ordered to open fire on the students during the 1989 student movement in Tiananmen Square. And after that, he and other CCP leaders were very nervous about their fate and the regime's destiny. So to protect themselves, they sought the advice from some feng shui masters or Daoist masters. And based on their advices, the CCP leaders made 3 changes to improve the feng shui in Beijing. The first thing they did was they raised the height of the flagpole in the center of Tiananmen Square because they were told that it was lower than the flagpole in front of the Mao Zedong mausoleum. And so they felt that their feng shui was suppressed by a dead person, in this case Mao, their supreme leader. And it was not good for the regime. So they raised the flagpole in the Tiananmen Square much taller. If you Google the picture of the flagpole in Tiananmen Square, it's so tall. And then that's the first thing they changed. And the second thing is, during the 1970s, Beijing dug many air shelters, not only Beijing, other cities throughout China as well. They dug many air shelters to prepare for nuclear war with Russia. And much of the excavated dirt was removed and piled up on the west side of the road outside the Temple of the Heavens. Here it is. So here's a picture of the Temple of the Heavens. The Temple of Heavens is a significant place. Traditionally, it's the place of worship for emperors to ask for protection, peace, and good harvest from the heavens. CCP leaders don't worship the heavens, so they were clueless. Now, they were told that the dirt they dug up created a hill that's taller than the hall of prayer. This is the hall of the prayer, and it's bad feng shui, as it would offend the heaven. So then the hill was removed and trees were planted there. That's the second change. And the third change is related to Beijing's water resources, or the lack of. According to Taoist theory, mountain and water are 2 important elements to good feng shui of a capital city, of an imperial palace, or of a residence. The house with the best feng shui usually faces south, with hills enclosing the house in the back, and water like a river or a lake in the front, or a pond in the front. Similarly, when choosing its capital city, ancient Chinese look for cities protected by mountains in the back, or up in the north, right? In the back and up in the north. The cities usually have mountains in the back or up in the north, and also have sufficient water in the front, like a river or a major lake. And Beijing fits that criteria. It's enclosed by a mountainous region on 3 sides in the north, and has the largest freshwater lake in northern China, to the south of Beijing, and the lake is called Baiyangdian. Please remember this name, as you'll hear it later, because it's related to what Xi Jinping is doing now. Historically, Beijing is a favored capital city and was chosen by 14 governments, and this includes both the Kuomintang governments, the Kuomintang government, and also the government before, after the Qing dynasty, before the ROC. So basically, 14 governments or dynasties chose Beijing as its capital city. Um, However, under CCP's rule, over construction, indiscriminate logging, and loss of forestry has made water resource in Beijing a problem, and the Baiyangdian Lake is polluted and dried up. So Beijing has lost its good feng shui, according to the feng shui master, right, or whoever was giving CCP leaders advices after the Tiananmen Square massacre. So Beijing decided in the 1990s to replenish water in the Baiyangdian Lake to change the feng shui. So that's the third thing they did. So you see, CCP leaders were very superstitious about what they did during the Tiananmen Square student movement. And so they made those three changes. Now let's talk about Jiang Zemin. So that was during the Deng Xiaoping time. Now let's talk about Jiang Zemin. Jiang Zemin's superstitions reached a whole new level, and it can be called a paranoia. He liked people with auspicious names. For example, he promoted Wang Huning. Remember Wang Huning? He was considered Xi Jinping's brain. He is the only CCP leader who served three regimes, all of Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, and Xi Jinping, right? But his name literally means Shanghai peaceful. You know, the Jiang Zemin faction's home base is Shanghai. He's from Shanghai. So Jiang Zemin liked people with good name or auspicious names. In August 1998, the Yangtze River basin in China was hit by a flood. The Chinese state media called the flood once in a century a mega flood, when in fact, water experts considered the flood only a minor one, because the peak water flow was below the 20-year record and was way under the 100-year record. But Chinese media made it sound worse because Jiang Zemin's superstition turned it into a major disaster. He refused a river flood diversion plan because he feared it was bad feng shui for him. Now, 1998 was the year of Tiger. It was Jiang Zemin's birth sign year. He was a tiger. Chinese believe that the year of one's birth sign isn't a lucky one. You know, unfortunate things usually happen. So people take precaution in their birth sign years. And so Jiang was very nervous. And there's a book written about him. It's called The Untold Stories of Jiang Zemin. The book revealed that Jiang Zemin believed that diverting water in a major river, like the Yangtze River, was like digging into his good fortune. So he refused the water diversion plan, the rescue plan, causing the death of 5,000 people during that flood and 300 billion yuan economic losses. It was only a minor flood. Jiang Zemin also sought out Qigong masters for advice. A man named Wang Ling, a Qigong, I don't even think he's a real Qigong master. It was some sort of, but the guy used snakes to perform supernatural tricks on people and gained a following, including some Chinese celebrities and some Politburo Standing Committee members, and also including Jiang Zemin and his family. This guy, Wang, was arrested in 2015 by Xi Jinping's people for illegal possession of weapons and also fraud. So according to the book Untold Story of Jiang Zemin, Jiang was so afraid of losing power, so he sought out famous Qigong masters to give him advices. Now, in the 1990s, Falun Gong was the most popular Qigong in China, and it grew like wildfire due to its miraculous health benefits. Jiang Zemin wanted to meet the founder of Falun Gong, Master Li Hongzhi, and so he sent invitation to meet with him. And the person who brought the invitation to the founder of Falun Gong was told by Master Li Hongzhi that he would meet Jiang if to discuss health-related issues, but he would not be able to discuss politics or his political future. Now, Falun Gong has, from the very beginning, made it clear that it's apolitical. Uh, but Jiang Zemin really wanted to meet Master Li, so he sent a second invitation. In the end, the two never met. Now, in China, Qigong masters seek every opportunity, right, to be able to meet top leaders, to gain their favor. So, but Falun Gong's founder, sent a very clear message: no politics, no discussion of politics. So people say this became one of the reasons for Jiang Zemin's brutal persecution of Falun Gong, because he was angry. And the biggest irony is that he and the CCP called Falun Gong politically motivated. Okay, now let's talk about Xi Jinping. The New York Times had an article on March 25th, 2017, titled, I do have a picture of that, hopefully. Here it is. The title is Xi Jinping and China's Spiritual Revival. The New York Times quoted a childhood friend of Xi Jinping as saying that the Chinese leader displayed a fascination with Buddhist martial arts, Qigong, and other mystical powers said to aid health, as well as with Buddhist sacred sites. Okay. And the friend said that although he wasn't sure if Xi Jinping was truly religious, but the friend was extremely impressed by how much Xi Jinping knew about the subject and his belief in supernatural powers. There are other reports in Chinese language by Chinese. This one is by New York Times. So there are other Chinese reports about Xi Jinping's connection to Buddhism, and some believe that's the reason why he doesn't believe Catholicism or Christianity has a role in China. He believed that Buddhism or even Taoism, traditional Chinese faith, is what people should believe in, but not Western faith. Now, the comment made by his friend was based on his observation when Xi Jinping was a young man. So the question is, did Xi Jinping change his view now that he is older, now that he's the CCP leader? In May 2020, a few months after COVID wreaked havoc around the world, and when Xi Jinping was under a lot of pressure internally and externally, he made two unusual trips. I say unusual because during the early months of COVID, he wasn't seen in the public a lot. So the fact that he left Beijing was unusual. Where did he go? Well, he went to visit a sacred Buddhist site. There it is. He went to the Yungang grottos in Datong. Of course, as the CCP leader, who's supposedly an atheist, he didn't say, I'm here to pay tribute to the Buddha statue. Here's the Buddha statue, I think the famous one. He talked about the importance of preserving cultural relics and restoration. But how many people were convinced that in the middle of the pandemic, historical preservation was his priority, right? So people concluded that he went there to pay tribute to the Buddha statue, particularly when it was known. Remember the article, the Times article mentioned that Xi Jinping, has a fascination from his younger years with Buddhist sacred sites. Now, before he appeared at this place, at this site, he also made a surprise visit to the Qingling Mountains in Shanxi. Now, the Qingling Mountains are known as the arteries of the nation, and it's a symbol of the dragon lineage. You know how Chinese people call themselves the descendants of the dragon? And Xi Jinping once said that the Qingling mountain is an important symbol of Chinese culture. And the place was revered or has been revered by many Chinese emperors as the birthplace of Chinese civilization. So major constructions on the mountain is forbidden. Historically, the construction on the mountain has led to the downfall of dynasties. So, for example, the building of the the Efang Palace during the Qing dynasty led the downfall of the dynasty. And during the Tang dynasty, Emperor Xuanzong repaired the Huaqing Chi, the pond of Huaqing, on the mountain, resulting in a rebellion. So Xi Jinping has repeatedly instructed people to eliminate illegal constructions in the area. And he fired a whole class of officials from Shanxi for that. So he's very anxious because it's a matter of his power, right? It's a matter concerning the fate of his regime. But while he doesn't allow others to touch the Qingling Mountains, he himself has dug a water tunnel. I do have a picture. Here it is. Oh, here it is. He has dug a water tunnel nearly 100 kilometers through the mountains to transport water northbound. Why did he do it? I had a graph in Chinese that showed he brought water from the south to the north. Why does he do that? Well, it is to improve the feng shui of his ancestor home. Now, he's from Shanxi. Well, his father is also from Shanxi, and his father is buried there. His father's memorial park is in the Fuping County of Shanxi. Here's an aerial picture of his father's memorial park, or the mausoleum of Xi Jinping. Now, unlike other Chinese mausoleums, which are usually in a north-south direction, right? Like I said, the best feng shui in Chinese usually goes from north to the south, with the back facing the north and the opening facing the south. The senior Xi's mausoleum is going diagonal, with the back to the northwest and facing southeast. This is very unique, but it's important because the Xi's family started out in northwest China. They're from Shanxi, which is in the northwest of China. Did I say northeast? No, it should be northwest. They're from the northwest. And that's also where Xi's father gained political prominence, right? It's also in Shanxi. But it ended where Xi Jinping, the son, when his political career took off. Where was it? It was in Fujian and Zhejiang. It's in southeast China. So you see, the memorial park is, started from northwest, where they started, but it ended, or it's facing the place where Xi Jinping's career took off, which is southeast. So the memorial park isn't just about Xi's father. It has the trajectory of his political career, as well as Xi Jinping's political career building as well. Right? So they say it's this memorial park sort of celebrates the blessed land for both senior Xi and his son. Now, the water tunnel we mentioned earlier, that he dug, it was 100-kilometer water tunnel to bring water northbound, is to bring water to this area because water is an important element in feng shui, right? So let me show you the next picture. So let me make this bigger. So this is an aerial picture of the area. The little red dot up on the top is where his father's memorial park is. And you could see that there's a waterway to the south, right? Kind of runs to the south of that. And that's the water. That's a man-made river created to the south of the memorial park. And people who know feng shui said that his memorial park is painstakingly designed with every possible feng shui consideration. Okay, so that brings us to the topic of the Xiong'an capital, the new capital city that Xi Jinping proposed to build, right? Some feng shui experts say that the new city was built with two purposes, or two main purposes. The first is a new place is needed in between his family's memorial park, or his ancestor, because the memorial park is built in his ancestral home. It's in the region where they're from, so that's there's it's like his birthplace, right? So a new place is needed in between his father's memorial park or his ancestor home and Beijing to connecting the two. That's consideration number one. And then the second consideration is he needs to reinforce the water element to the south of the capital city, Beijing. Remember Baiyangdian Lake that I mentioned earlier, the largest freshwater lake in northern China, in which Deng Xiaoping had replenished water after the student movement in 1989. Xiong'an is built right next to the lake. It's basically built for the purpose of reinforce the lake region. Now, the lake has become even more polluted and dried up over the past decades. During the Beijing Olympics in 2008, many factories in Beijing were moved to this region, dumping their industrial waste into the water. So in order to improve the feng shui of Beijing, the capital city, Xi Jinping needs to rescue and revive the lake. And Xiong'an is built right next to the lake for that purpose. In fact, this objective is stated by the state media. It's said in the press release, in the media article, saying that one important reason to select Xiong'an is for the lake Baiyangdian. And so I read you what the state media said. It says, in the generally water scarce northern region, Baiyangdian Lake, with more than 200 square kilometers of water, is an extremely precious ecological resource. This large natural wetland is known as the kidney of North China. Xiong'an was born out of the concern for the Baiyangdian Lake. So you see, the whole concept of building this Xiong'an new capital was to resuscitate the kidney of northern China. So during his visit, I think he visited the 3 times after the project kicked off. Xi Jinping visited Xiong'an 3 times. He repeatedly stressed the importance of protecting Lake Baiyangdian. Of course, his concern isn't necessarily environmental or isn't environmentally driven, right? People all believe it's to protect water resources. It's for the environment. No, it's for his feng shui concern. And another objective is political. So what I mentioned, the above two are feng shui objectives, right? One is to connecting his ancestral home with Beijing, and Xiong'an is right on that line. And the second is to improve the water element. Now, there's a political concern, and that is Deng Xiaoping left behind the Shenzhen economic zone as his legacy, and Jiang Zemin left behind Pudong in Shanghai. Xi Jinping also needs to have an economic zone or region that has name on it. So this makes Xiong'an very important to him. Geographically, Xiong'an is bigger than Shenzhen and Pudong. So far, nearly $500 billion has been spent to build the city. The Xiong'an high-speed rail station. Do I have a picture? Oh, oh, here it is. Is how big is that? It's the size of it's the largest railway station in Asia. It's the size of 66 soccer fields. Wow. But right now it only has one train per day to Beijing, maybe to and from. That's like the yeah. Speaking of the waste, by the way, the area near Baiyangdian in Xiong'an is the most important agricultural area in Hebei province. So 66 soccer fields is a serious violation of Xi Jinping's own new farmland policy. Remember, he's converting forests back to farmlands. So I'm going to play you a video to show you Xiong'an. Here we go. I'm gonna start from the very beginning. Sorry. Um, let me make this bigger so you can see it. I'll talk over it. So it's just driving into Xiong'an and then some aerial views. The biggest problem is the region is unfit to build for a large city because it's mostly an agricultural wetland. Geographically, the region has the lowest depression in North China. So once a city is built on it, urban drainage and flood prevention become a nightmare. So when it rains, water will pour into the city because of its low depression. Right now, the city is mostly empty as people don't want to leave Beijing. You can see this is the area view. Look at how many apartment buildings were built. And look how few cars. You don't see many cars on the street. It's mostly empty. And so, yeah, it's very empty. Unless Xi Jinping uses some administrative measure to force SOEs, state-owned enterprises, and to move there, people don't want to leave Beijing, right? That's the problem. Because so in terms of feng shui, territorial, if he wants to be successful, feng shui, in addition to feng shui, there are other considerations. So Chinese people say, territorial conditions, celestial timing, and human harmonies are all important if you want to be successful with an endeavor. So those are the three elements people look for, right? Celestial timing, meaning you have to do the right thing at the right time. Territorial conditions, that covers feng shui, right? The right elements. And then also human harmony. But the CCP never considers human harmony. So there's no good feng shui when people are upset, no matter how you build the lakes and move things around. CCP is incapable of understand human harmony. So if you ask me if China's new capital city will bring good feng shui, I really doubt it. Because like I said, without human harmony, it's still not successful. So with that, I wrap up my presentation. I hope this is interesting. It's a lot to say. Let me see if people have questions for me. Wow, the video is still playing. Yeah, so I think I doubt if there are any occupancy in those hotels right now. All right, let me come back. Let me see if people have questions for me. Let me start from the top to see if there are super chats questions. From H. Patel, CCP flexing muscle at India-Tibet border. Purpose? Purpose. I made a video about Sino-Indian War. That's from the 1960s. Right now, it's very complex. It's very hard to say what the purpose is. Sometimes I think, it's really it may not be by design. If you ask Xi Jinping, does he want to see border conflicts right now happening? He may not, but it could be a sign of him losing control over the PLAs. Sometimes people who are against him could purposefully cause some unrest, just to embarrass him. It's very complex. I think I made a video on that subject. So without a specific case, it's hard to say what that is. Sometimes they do that in order for them to gain bargaining chips when they need to negotiate with India, or for some other geopolitical concerns. So it really depends on what the situation is. I cannot make a blanket assumption. It really varies. All right. Tolomeo Salamanca. Wow, that's a long name. Thank you for the donation. I've heard a recent rumor that Xi Jinping hated his father. Do you think there's any truth to that? I have not heard it. I don't want to say. I can only tell you I have not heard it. Now, the memorial park. Let me talk about. He didn't build that memorial park for his father, shall we say. He didn't directly say, here's my money or here's my budget for building a memorial park for my father. In China, these things are done usually by people who, at the provincial level, who want to gain favors. He in 2000, his father died in 2002. So 3 years later, in 2005, he removed his father's ashes from Babaoshan, from Beijing to his hometown, and he built a very modest resting place for his father. But that was in 2005. But the project kind of got delayed. It was much smaller in scale, but as soon as he was, it looked like he was going to become the next leader, people at the provincial level all of a sudden turned that project into a major endeavor, right? So it's the local officials who did this, spend their local budget, their local money to build this, to impress him, to want to gain his favor. So he never said, I built this, but it was the local people who built this for him. So I cannot say, I did not read anything that he was not happy with his father. But, in a communist family, it's hard to say. I mean, when he grew up in that kind of environment during the Cultural Revolution, his mother did turn him in to the authorities when he ran away from the countryside to home because he couldn't stand it. His mother turned him in. I mean, that must be hard on a teenager. You ran home, and your own mother turned you into the authorities. I mean, how does that feel, right? So, from Jeff Ramos, the gates from Forbidden City fell on CCP reunion date. Bad fengshui, yes. The gates from the most important hall within the Forbidden City fell on that day a few years ago. It's bad sign. I made a video on that. It's called 7 Signs. Maybe I will copy the link of that video to the description. I don't know if Chris, are you there? I have a helper. Chris, if you're there, you can help me copy the link of that video, the 7 signs why the regime will fall, to the description, so people could see that. Yes, it's mentioned that. It's definitely the doors are very important. You don't want to have your doors fall. Once a door fell, it's bad feng shui. So it fell on its own on the opening day of the 2 sessions, and it's bad feng shui. Um, and let me see. Let me go through the super chats question from Alan 10. Okay. Thank you. All right, let me see other questions people have. From Moonwalker. Oh, let me go back a little bit. From Ed C. I asked a friend in China about Xiong'an. He never heard of it. Do most people in China know about this place, Xiong'an? Um, People in Beijing definitely know. Maybe people in the south don't care or have not heard. It's possible, but if you talk to people in Beijing, they should have heard. Or if, especially if they work in SOEs, they should have heard. Let me see. From Moonwalker, if Xi Jinping were to die, what's the line of succession? Do they have another election? They don't have election. Um, right now, there's no one there's no one who appears to be his successor. And he talked about recently. They released an article, internal document or internal document about his talk, one of his talk conversations that talks about succession, about his criteria in choosing a successor, shall we say. It doesn't, he gave the rationale why he hasn't chosen one. Uh, because he said he does not want those people, like the he does not want to create like a designated heir, so those people sit there and do nothing, just waiting to be crowned. Right? He does not want to create a prince that just waiting to be crowned, and he want them to work hard to earn their title. So that's why there's no succession. But right now there's none. So maybe people say he's really the last leader. Watch my video, the 7 signs. Um, you will see why people say he's the last CCP leader. There will not be no one after him, at least according to the prophecies. The let me see questions. Um, all right, thank you, Marvel. Um, let me see questions for me. Um, any other questions? Oh, from Ed C. Is it true that the new bridge from Hong Kong is believed to have bad feng shui? I have not heard. I know that they opened the traffic, but it's only one way. Like people from Hong Kong can go to Shenzhen or Guangdong, but not the other way around. That could be bad feng shui, right? Because good feng shui is everything flows. It's like money. Money is like Chinese believe money is like water. You need to get it flowing, right? Once it's flowing, then you get into the healthy cycle of money. So overly frugal people is not bringing good feng shui to their money, um, because you stop the flow of water. Um, by the same rationale, people who overspend, um, is also bad feng shui, because you are, you're like pushing the flow, um, unnecessarily. So yeah, so the concept of having flow, have something flow in a cyclical fashion is good feng shui. So when you have a bridge and it's going one way, it's not good. I'm sure the people who have a Hong Kong passport, can return, right? They can, otherwise, what's the point of having a bridge? They can only go to Guangdong and cannot return. So those people can return, but they are forbidding the people from Guangdong, the Chinese people, the mainland Chinese people, from going to Hong Kong. So if you look at the traffic, it's very limited. What's the point of having a bridge if you don't let people travel on it? That could be bad feng shui, right? Um, because in Chinese, it's not 兴旺. It's not lively, right? You want something lively, like with vitality, and that's always a very promising sign of good feng shui. If something is very stale and not active, it's not good. So the fact that China has all these empty real estate, all these empty houses, it's not good feng shui because it's just stale. I mean, it's the same analogy to the bridge. You build a bridge, you want to use it. You want people to use it. Um, Otherwise, don't build it, because if you build a bridge, you let it sit there, it's bad feng shui, right? All right. That's just the concept. All right. Any other questions? Jeff Ramos. The harvesting of organs from people to CCP leaders is a bad feng shui. It's worse than feng shui. You cannot even, I mean, that's a crime. It's definitely has caused the wrath of heaven. It's, I mean, it's very bad. Um, from kinda player one, Lei, who do you think would be a good successor after Xi? I don't know. Um, I just hope there's none. I hope the regime ends here, some one way or another, right? I don't want it to continue because it's causing, I'm not saying Xi Jinping is the problem, although he is doing the job, so he does create all these problems. I think the CCP, the communist regime, should end here. It should end with him. Now, how is it end? I don't know. Maybe he could end it. If he's wise, if he truly believes in Buddhism, or if he truly has faith in traditional Chinese faith, beliefs, like whether it's Buddhism or Taoism or Confucianism, if he truly believes in the Buddha statue, he should see that communism is totally against traditional Chinese culture. Then he should end it if he truly has faith in Buddhism. I don't know if he does or does not. But if he doesn't end it, and maybe something else will end the regime. I don't know. All right. Marvel Ragged. Did the mainland already release a statement regarding the construction of semiconductor fabs in the US? I have not. I need to look into that. That's a good question. I read something quickly for the past couple of days. I have not seen anything that I can make a comment on that, but I'll keep that question in mind. It's worth looking into. Thank you. Um, from Tolomeo. I love your name. If the CCP falls, do you think that Inner Mongolia, Eastern Turkey, and Tibet will become independent? That's a question. What would happen if the regime falls? The question is, would China break into different regions or different states? Right? That's a question that people are concerned about. I have been thinking about it. I have not formed a concrete idea. So it's a good question. It's possible. All about Andrea. Lei, do you think we'll get to see the CCP fall in our lifetime? This seems like the regular citizens are waking up to how dangerous the CCP is to them personally. I think we'll see that in our lifetime. Believe me. Yes. From Lai Chong. Lei, do you have any analysis about organ harvest? Yes, I've done a couple of videos about that. Yes, I do. I made a video about the missing boy. You remember how there was a missing boy a high school kid? Um, and it was Google deemed that video not appropriate for anyone under 18. So it's on limited view. But I think it's a very important video that I made. I made several videos on that. All right. So from Martin 11, UK politician Liz Truss to visit Taiwan this week. CCP will go crazy. I'm pleased Western politicians are showing solidarity with Taiwan. Yes, they should do that. They should, like I said, if China can maintain relations with both North Korea and South Korea, why it does not allow other nations to maintain relations with both Taiwan and mainland China, right? So we should not be afraid. All right. Do you celebrate Mother's Day as a mother? Yes, I am a mother. I do celebrate Mother's Day. It's a wonderful day, and I also will go visit my mother. Thank you. Okay. All right. So it's Mother's Day. um, I'll end it here. It's almost an hour. Um, thank you very much for joining me, and I wish all the mother a great Mother's Day. Thank you. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.